Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan for Inside the Birds. And we got a game on Monday night. We got to preview week 2. Philadelphia Eagles come home for real this time, not in Brazil. They'll be in the link. The Atlanta Falcons will be visiting. And some interesting storylines, Adam. Obviously, the Falcons struggling in their first game. The Eagles becoming one of just, I guess, the only team to lose the turnover battle last week and still win their game. And then, of course, some injured guys who will be making their return. So we got a lot to talk about. This will be a really interesting podcast.
Yeah, and go inside kind of the Kirk Cousins and his situation. And I know you watched some of the Falcons tape. We want to talk to you about that.
Oh, man, I'm in a bad mood. You're going to make me in a bad mood again.
What is it? Bad tape? I'm guessing.
You know how Greg Cosell says, it's what's his favorite expression? Yeah, that was a tough watch, that Steelers Falcons game.
Yeah, so we'll get into that and a lot more. And then, of course, we have a pregame show with Greg. We can't wait to have that going on. And last week's was really good, so looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah, the pregame show will drop Monday morning. That'll be 6 a.m.-ish for those who like to get up early. And then, of course, I hope everybody had a chance to check out first episode of season 2 of Inside the Tape with Greg Cosell. Really phenomenal job Greg did of breaking down how motion is impacting the Eagles offense, at least through 1 week of Kellen Moore. Some guys on defense, strong words for Quinyon Mitchell that he had. He really liked Quinyon Mitchell's effort and tenacity and his ability to, play with physicality. When's the last time you remember saying that about an Eagles cornerback? Slay is a good corner, but it's not like you ever say, oh man, this guy plays tough and physical. Like, it's been a long time.
And not only that, the guy is a high pedigree in terms of traits, and he's got everything: size, athleticism, toughness, smarts. He looks like he's got a chance to be one of the best first round corners they've probably had in I don't know how long. We know about Leto, and Sheldon was not a first round pick, but Leto was. Mm-hmm. But bottom line is, this thing could be really, really good with him. And look, it was only 1 week, but here's the thing, folks. Kind of like Devontae Smith, who's been elite since he was drafted. This kid, Mitchell, has been really good since he was drafted. They start him low on the depth chart because they didn't want to rush him, but it became very obvious that he was going to be starting week 1. It was no secret to anyone who went to training camp. It was like, if they didn't do it, there's something like ridiculously wrong here, that they're not doing the right thing by the player and the club. But what's interesting is, how like typically you don't want to overload rookies and you don't want to give them a lot of different things. Remember, they talked about with DeJean, they didn't want to give him, for his injury, they didn't want to give him a lot to overload him. Well, they didn't take that approach with Quinyon. They gave him everything in the kitchen sink. Outside corner, nickel, which he really wasn't a nickel corner in college.
Right. Dime backer.
Right. Yeah, dime backer. Right. Good one. But they threw it out and he could handle it. I mean, it's knock on wood for their sake. He's got a chance to be special. But again, we've only played 1 game. He passed every test. Mm-hmm. There are going to be more tests coming up. No question about it. But so far, so good.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, great Inside the Tape with Greg Cosell. Obviously, we do that every week with him during the season. That's on the main platform. Everybody gets that: YouTube, podcast, however you consume Inside the Birds material. However, if you're a Patreon member, you get it first and you get it without ads. It's posted immediately and with 0 ads, and that's a great benefit. So as we always tell you, get in on that at patreon.com/inside the birds. Let's talk about some transactions. I had a feeling the Eagles were doing this. I wasn't sure, but now it looks like they are, because they do it every year. It's just tough to figure out who they're doing it with. The whole practice squad roster tango game that they're playing right now. They released Griffin Bear. They released Jack Stoll. These are from the practice squad, and Brandon Smith from the practice squad. And then they wound up re-signing Caden Stearns, right, to the practice squad. Yep. So you got like a Stoll Stearns, because Stoll is back with them. I don't know if they've officially announced it, but they're playing that practice squad tango with those guys.
Yeah, no, they announced all this.
Okay, just making sure.
Oh yeah, Jet Stoll, Brandon Smith. In fact, they don't have an inside. I'm shocked. Well, I should be shocked because they have too many on the 53, but they actually don't have an inside backer on their practice squad. Oh, I don't know if they'll be able to handle it.
Oh boy,
but they have 6 on their 53.
Right. Did they
So
announce that they brought? Did they officially announce so that they brought Stoll back to the practice
no,
squad?
no.
Okay, but we know he's in the area because he was like hanging around the building. All right,
Oh,
reporters
is that
were
right?
tweeting
Oh, is that
about it.
right? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I asked if they announced that.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
didn't mean the
you would
release. I
think.
mead the fact that he's probably going to be
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah, we need to get my guy Rashid Bailey, who when he was the best like receiver in training camp one year. It might have been 2015.
Hmm.
I know Chip or 2014. Probably 2015 when Chip had control. But I just remember him telling me that Chip said, "Hey, don't go anywhere. Stay in the area." He turned down other opportunities, and they wound up not signing him. It's terrible
Right.
until Howie came back, but then obviously a year later. But that was really awful. It sucks when you tell a player to, hey, don't go anywhere. You don't bring him back.
Hmm.
But Jack Stoll's a guy. Look, he's a wide tight end. This is valuable. Jenkins was here in training camp, so he knows the offense. Yeah, the tango thing, we came up with that like 5 years ago because they kept doing it as you were just talking about. It was like, okay, kind of the way you set it up. Hey, you two guys, don't go anywhere. We need the roster spots for the look team for this week. Don't go anywhere. We're going to bring you back. That's the under discussed thing
Hmm.
we've learned talking to coaches over the years. They tell the players, hey, listen, we need this spot for this week. They tell the agent, don't we look, you can do what you want, but we really want you back. If you're willing to wait, we're going to bring you back. Now, if the GM or the head coach or whatever tells them this, you would think that they're telling the truth and they're not going to change their mind. You got to
Right.
trust them.
Right. Absolutely. So let's go through some of the other practice squad signings. What we know, Adam, the cornerback, the rookie free agent AJ Woods. Believe he was waived by Washington, correct? In
Correct.
late August, right? He was originally with the Steelers, or
No,
no, he went
no,
to Pitt. I'm sorry, he
Pitt.
went
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Pitt.
yeah.
Yeah.
Went to Pitt. Yeah, undrafted free agent, smaller guy.
Hmm.
He's built like a nickel corner, a slot corner. So we'll see how they line him up. But the big one to me, and I say big, once again, the Eagles are running to that 49ers third round well. This is their third guy, Danny Gray, receiver who I remember out of SMU. Our Andrew DiCecco did an interview with him, 2 years ago for Draft Dreams?
Yeah, yeah. It was a great interview. He's a really good guy. I mean, at least from the interview, he was a really interesting kid.
Yeah, so we actually retweeted that on Thursday. So if you're following us on Inside the Birds or you or I on Twitter, you could see that. But or obviously search Draft Dreams on
On
YouTube?
YouTube. Yeah.
Yep. And so you can
Draft
find
Dreams,
it.
Danny Gray. You'll find
Okay.
it.
So he's super fast, explosive. He's not the biggest guy in the world. The Niner, he went on IR twice last season. They kind of gave up on him. He was not claimed off waivers. He bounced. I mean, he worked out for the Eagles recently, and they signed him to the practice squad. Is Ty Davis Price, another third round, former third round player. Ty Davis
Hmm.
Price was actually third. So I guess they must have had two third rounders that year in 22 because Ty Davis Price was a third rounder.
Right.
And Trey Sermon, who was with the Eagles last year, is now with the Colts, who was, by the way, the number 2 running back. He was a third rounder in 2021. I don't know what it is. I know it's coincidence. I don't know if anyone who's in the Eagles front office who who what intel do they have? It's just kind of weird, isn't
I
it?
know. Tom Gamble has long been out the
Oh,
door there, so
yeah.
I don't know
The
the San
Jags.
Francisco
Yeah,
connection, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
It's
we
weird.
talked about Goodwin. We talked about who's the Nick Mullins, right? The
Uh,
quarterback,
yeah, Nick Mullins, who the Eagles actually faced that Sunday night game many years ago,
right?
the Niners, and then yeah, you mentioned Marquise Goodwin, who never played for the Eagles. Remember, the trade got rescinded.
Right. And you got
That's
Oren Burks,
yeah,
right?
that's right. Another ex 49. What? I don't know. Hey, they're a good organization. They're really good.
I mean,
Okay.
if you want to go far, but we can go to Jeff Garcia,
Of course.
right?
Yeah, I know. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, that's funny.
Brian Westbrook wound up playing for the
He
Niners
did.
after the
He
Eagles. So,
did.
yeah.
Oh, hey, wait. Former Eagle, not legend, Frank Gore. What are you talking about?
Of course. I forgot about Frank Gore. That's right.
That one gets retweeted every year. Schefter and I put that story out in 20. I don't know what's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Chip's year, 2015.
Yeah.
And now
T.O., right?
T.O., yeah,
T.O.,
of
former
course. Oh
Niner.
my God, we got to get Brad Childress on to tell about this story when his deposition in the case, the arbitration case.
Yeah. That would be an interesting one.
Or yeah, whatever the hell it was. When they had the grievance against T.O., what he said was crazy, and the transcript is fantastic. But you're right, man. I'm sure there are others. People can remember others. But yeah, so here we go. So Danny Gray's explosive.
Yeah.
He could help with the look team, which the look team, folks, he just mimics a player. He'll wear the number of a jersey. Like, okay, Danny Gray's fast, so he might, if you're facing a team with like he can mimic Darnell Mooney this week, by the way,
Hmm.
right? Or
Hmm.
any fast receiver going forward here, he could do that. But again, he's got talent. He unfortunately got hurt last season. So that's it. So yeah, that's and Caden Stearns, look, they're going to see this through. They know he's still trying to come back from a major knee injury, really bad one, patella tendon. But he knows Vic. This is Vic's guy with the Broncos, and that's why he's here.
There you go. All right, so we'll go on to injuries now. Let's start with some Falcons injuries. They got a little bit banged up in that game, not just on the scoreboard, but
Yeah,
I know in the game, I'll defer to you on this. I know Lidstrom left for a little bit. Their right guard who
he's
signed
fine.
an extension. He's okay, right?
Yeah. He's not even
The
on the injury report. Yeah.
Go ahead. Not even on that's
No,
good.
McGarry is the right tackle,
Right.
limited with a groin. And now this one, I don't want to say it's big. The guy's a starter, Nate Landman.
Hmm.
They're concerned, as I understand it, from being able to play because he's got 2 injuries, calf and quadriceps. It's going to be hard for him. So that's not good. I know they're pretty high on him. He's been a pretty good story of development. Landman was signed as an undrafted free agent in 22.
Hmm.
But look, they're good enough there. They've got Troy Anderson, who got hurt last season, a pretty significant injury. He's out of Montana State. He's a big dude, 6'3", 240.
Yeah, he stood out to me when I was
Yeah, okay.
watching the tape.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about that later on the matchup. So he was a second rounder 2 years ago, so they'll be okay. But the thing with them is, it's so what happened to them is Braylon Trice. There's a couple guys of note.
Hmm.
Braylon Trice is an edge rusher from UW. He was a third rounder this year. He is on IR. He was not designated to return, so it seems like he's probably going to be out for the season.
Mm.
In fact, I remember reading that Rondell Moore is out for the season, but he was going to be their third receiver. Remember, they made the trade with the Cardinals. Uh, we'll talk more about their situation at number 3 receiver when we do the matchup with Cosell. And here's what happened: why they signed Justin Simmons. DeMarco Helms, who was hurt, he was going to be a starter opposite Jesse Bates, I believe. So he's on IR, but he's designated for return. And they clearly don't think Richie Grant is good enough, the second rounder.
I liked him coming out of what, South Florida or Central Florida? I thought he was going to be
Yeah.
a pretty decent player. Yeah.
Yeah. Now here's the thing: you've got a new scheme, Central Florida, correct? He was a second rounder, and here's why: you got a new scheme and a new coach, a new coaching staff, so they don't know the player. And I mean, you would think, I mean, Justice Simmons just got there, but hey, I know they have there's some coaches on the staff that have experience with Simmons, so
Right.
it's not out of necessity. But as I was saying on our live stream with our Patreon members, and DeCecco joined, Andrew and I talked about their secondary. Terrell's elite, but opposite him is not. Mike Hughes is a fast guy, but he's smaller. And remember, he's been hurt a lot. Special teams returner. He really should be a fourth corner. We'll get more into that matchup on Sunday, but man, I'm feasting. Someone's going to get open against the whoever plays. Again, right now it's Mike Hughes.
Hmm.
He offers it was a nickel corner, was an undrafted free agent 3 years ago. So there's some matchups here that clearly favor the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that whole Troy Anderson thing because, like I said, he jumped out of tape at me a little bit. He's playing linebacker, and I had forgotten that was the Montana State kid. I know the Eagles looked at him a little bit coming out of college a few years ago, and he went pretty high in the second round, if I'm not mistaken, right? Or high to mid second round.
He was taken in 2022.
His college tape is unbelievable, by the way. If you watch his highlight tape,
wow.
Just because the Checo will tell you, I mean, he just runs around making plays everywhere. I mean,
To be a second rounder,
yeah.
He was 58th overall, so he was a late second rounder.
Late second round. Yeah, I actually thought he was going to be a third or fourth because he played at such a low level. So
Montana State. That. But again, no, same general manager, but unfortunately, Terry Fontenot, who came over from the Saints as personnel director. But again, you've got a new scheme here. Yeah, that's not good. That Richie Grant. Now I get it. He funny of his deal. He's been a disappointment. So, and Jesse Bates are paying, obviously a ton of money, $17 million a year. So Jesse Bates is going to start, and with Simmons. So we'll see what happens. But just wanted to put that out there about what they're dealing with in their secondary.
There you go. As for the Eagles, a better situation now. Before we go to any injuries, as far as guys coming back, Devin White and Isaiah Rodgers were able to practice on Thursday. You know, Devin had to answer questions now about being a backup linebacker, but he handled it well, I thought. You know, he did not point any fingers. He was a true pro in that regard. And Isaiah Rodgers talked about how he broke his hand. A teammate, I guess, or tried to draw the ball out of way, or I don't know. He's not a ball carrier, but he must have something. He said his hand got jammed by another teammate going for the ball. So maybe two guys were going for the ball and knocked into him. But either way, he's out there, helmet on, practicing. It looks good for him to play. I mean, so Adam, to us, I mean, like, this is what we were talking about. Be really interesting to see how the coaches use him, if the coaches use him, you know, how effective he can be. If because his hand is still wrapped up, I believe.
It has to be. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah.
definitely. In fact, when you and I heard, recently that it was a broken hand, I just remember talking to players, whatever position they play, it's sometimes you want to, you don't want the super thick cast because in this case, he's got a tackle, but whether it's a receiver or whatever, the receiver obviously has to be able to catch the football. But it depends on obviously where it is on his hand. But the key is he's got to be able to tackle, and obviously he took a full practice, and so he's training towards being able to play. But remember, folks, they don't tackle in practice. Now there are certain things you can do. You could on a side field, you could do certain drills, bag drill, make him tackle that, whatever to test the hand. But here's the thing where he helps him. He's really fast. I know he's not the biggest guy in the world, and yes, he hasn't played nickel yet. Nickel inside. So they're going to have to figure that out. But the bottom line is Mitchell is going to be an outside corner mostly going forward.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of now, again, you've got the situation with Ringo, who had a good camp. He looks like he's got a chance to be a quality backup corner. He's not fast as Rodgers, but Ringo's taller. So it's kind of a good problem to have. Like where's this depth in a corner? Do you know, can you remember last time they actually had real depth at corner?
Well, I always say, like, I remember you have to go all the way back to having Sheldon, Lido backing up Bobby and Troy. But even after that, Rod Hood was a pretty good third corner. He would come in, play outside, and Sheldon would move inside. And that gave them three pretty good. Plus, who was there was another nickel in the making. It was before Joselio Hansen. They had a decent nickel too. But yeah, it's been a long time. Very, very long time. So I agree with you. Mitchell's going to be on the outside. Here's my big question going into week 2 is how much patience will Vic Fangio have with Avonte Maddox at nickel? Especially if Avonte doesn't continue not to play well, and will he be able to get Cooper DeJean into that role more, and then eventually have Cooper take over that role? I wonder how long that will take. Because that to me seems inevitable. I think.
Yeah. Well, no, I was just gonna say that the expectation, 2 months ago was before we knew he had a hamstring injury, was that DeJean would be nickel, and that they would keep Maddox because he could be a backup. So they don't have their depth at safety is poor. That would give him enough reason to keep him on the roster for $2 million, so because he could back up nickel and back up safety. That to have his experience and his speed. Now, I know Andrew felt like he maybe lost a step. Andrew was talking about he felt like he didn't quite look maybe like he used to in training camp. There every day.
Guys had so many injuries. Who could?
Yeah, and he's been hurt a lot, right? Sure. But look, they brought him back, and as I was told that he had other opportunities, but they're all kind of equal with the money. And it's because of his injury history. He wasn't going to get $5 million a year. He just had to deal with the problem with being hurt a lot. And you don't know. You just don't know. Can he? I know he gave up 2 bad, big plays, no question. One was a touchdown to Christian Watson. Also, he's only 5'9", so they got to get through this. And DeJean only played 6 snaps, and he's a rookie, and you can't just force it. And Vic's not going to do that,
right?
And you heard what he said about White and Bryce Huff. We should mention just about the fact that he was asked about when's Huff going to get more time, and when he clearly is. Outplaying these guys, outperforming these guys. So
right. So we'll finish this off. Back to Devin Wright real quick, because the Eagles, he said the right things, and the Eagles said the right things too. They said he's still a part of it. He's still on the team. He's still important. We're going to need him. The reality is he's going to be inactive on Monday night. I mean, Are you kidding me?
I mean, I would say yes, because
he's got to be, right? I mean, you got your 2 starters, you got Oren Burks, you got Ben Van Sumer. You're not having a 5th one.
I got you. No, I got you. But Here, the only reason why you have him active, and it's really Howie's call, because all GMs have this authority if they want to do it, is they can't tell the coach who to play. But in terms of 50, who's on the 53, I mean, who's up and who's down, every GM has power to do that. He could say, listen, he could say, hey, we want him up because he's making $5 million this season.
Well, I forgot a name here though. You've got your two starters, Dean and Vaughn. You have Trotter, Ben Van Sumeren, and Burks.
Yeah,
so which one is, if it's even possible that he's active, who would you make inactive?
Well, it's either Trotter or White. That's the question.
Yeah.
Burks, to me, because of his size, his experience, he's the one true veteran who's been there and done that before. Just obviously was with the Super Bowl team this year, team that was in it. Whether they signed his insurance policy or not, the bottom line is he's got experience, and he's more of a Mike linebacker. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's
hard to digest. I get it,
but no. Listen, he's earned it being inactive.
Sure.
And I think what we clearly learned is, while it was true, he led all their inside backers and snaps. What happened really? Well, here's what really happened. They got the end of training camp. They summed it up. Who was the best player, though White had the most snaps? It's a Dean. Once he got past the first 2 weeks of camp, which included that tough practice at the link, he was their best linebacker of all of them, including Bond, of all their inside backers. And they rewarded him for the starting job. So, but here's another question. Not that White's good in coverage. He's not. I'm interested to see going forward here in terms of, well, we'll ask Greg if he noticed a nickel and dime who was out there. Do they even have, not that every team has got a good coverage linebacker. Someone's got to be better than terrible at it.
Right. Well, when they were in dime, it was definitely Vaughn, because Vaughn played all the snaps.
Yes.
And it was nickel. It was just him and N'Kobe. So
yeah. I
don't think they played any three linebacker. They were never in base.
They're a nickel team. Yeah.
Because even when the Packers put two tight ends on the field, they knew that those are two pass cat. Like, they never went to like straight base, because I don't even think the Packers put a fullback out there or anything like that.
No, but here's why I'm asking, because now you have, it's totally different now. Now you got Kyle Pitts, okay, who's finally healthy over his meniscus injury. And I know the Falcons offense looked like bleep last week, as you know, because you watch the tape, but this kid is a unicorn, man. I'm just telling you, he's now healthy. They featured him big time in training camp, as I understand it. So that's why I asked, okay, you went with Bond, and I know he's tall for inside backer, but he's so limited in coverage. I know he did it. Little he's played. He's covered tight ends before. But we're going to learn over a series of weeks who the best coverage linebacker is. Well, I don't think we know that yet.
I would agree with you. We don't know that yet. All right, so that is the injury situation. Oh, Milton Williams, I forgot to mention.
Oh, that's new. That's the only new injury.
Yep.
Yeah. So White and Rodgers, you mentioned. Milton Williams is the pop-up from the game. Now, this is not a pop-up, but he got hurt in the game. So he was limited on Thursday. We'll learn more about it over the next 48 hours, what his status is for the game, because we don't want to just assume he's playing, because this is a new injury. So, and now if he doesn't play, it would be a Jomo. So right. He's one of the backup 4 eyes, so he would be in there. That would be it. You know what? I mentioned, if by chance Milton Williams doesn't play, Byron Young would play. He would be active. And boy, Cosell's Greg's notes to us which was it, the live stream? Was it the live stream? Was it with the Patreon? I forget.
It could have been Inside the Tape, or it could have been on Ask Greg Cosell.
One of them. It was really good stuff he gave on Byron Young, and I had to explain. I told him, hey, here's what happened. It was more that they got down on him. This staff, he just didn't perform, and they felt he came in like he felt he had a role, and he got kind of told you don't, and he just didn't respond, and here he is, and Eagles claimed off waivers.
Yeah. Don't you think, though, let's say they didn't want to start a Jomo, don't you think that Booker would probably get the next nod up over Byron Young?
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if you were suggesting.
No, hell no. Okay. No, I'm just saying he'd be active.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Yeah, it would be Booker and Young. In fact, let's see. Do they have so Gabe Hall, who he can't be ready. He just didn't do anything. No. That's the wow, that's the only D lineman. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Currently.
Yeah,
on the practice squad.
All right, why don't we get into a little bit of our Falcons intel and observations.
Yep.
Before we do that, we'll pause for a minute to hear a word from our great friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you stop into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal, or you can go to their website if you can't make it in. It's www.skymotorcars.com.
And by the way, they ship cars nationwide, and it's where the players go. Local athletes. Avante Maddox has had deals with them for years. I know a couple other Eagles have done it. I know it's Paul Reed. I think B-Ball Paul did.
Yeah.
Is he gone? I forget. I don't know.
I sure hope.
Yeah, I know. They signed him to that restricted free agent deal. He's just so limited offensively. But no, they're fantastic. They're in Westchester, right off of 202.
There you go. All right. Coming to South Philadelphia will be the Atlanta Falcons and Kirk Cousins, like clockwork every year. This time he is in an Atlanta Falcons uniform. So let's just start with Kirk, Adam, because my observations just watching the tape were, and I am not a doctor, so I'm not going to even guess on.
And
we know he's coming back
quotes.
from an Achilles, right? We know he's coming back from Achilles.
We got quote after you're done. Let us know what the tape looked like.
But
I got quotes from him from Thursday's practice, and apparently he was aware of what's out there with what people are saying. But go ahead.
Okay, I don't even know what's aware or out there was. I'm just saying he made some throws that looked like he was more arm whipping it instead of stepping into it, and some of that was under duress, and some of it to me was also like he's not yet comfortable in this offense. I mean, it really strikes me that every single snap I watched, I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched as much as I could. Every single snap was out of shotgun, and it's so weird to see that for Kirk Cousins. I mean, this is a guy in Minnesota who is under center quite a bit and seemed to really like to work off of that under center downhill play action. And I watched like three. I think he targeted the backup tight end. They play a lot of 12 personnel. So this guy Warner was on the field a lot. I think he blocks
former
way
Niner.
better. Yeah, he blocks way better than Pitts. And you're right. They need those guys for that 49er-ish type offense that Zach Robinson is running there. And I'm like, why is he even throwing it to this guy with all these other guys? But so I have no idea how he's feeling or what it's like, but he did not look comfortable to me, and he didn't look like a quarterback who's ready to stick his foot in the ground and drive it. Now, I don't know if that's injury or just like not being in shotgun all the time is different when you're taking a drop from under center.
All right, so let me give you some quotes here, and if you're on Patreon, we posted all Cousins and other transcripts from the Falcons. We also posted all the Eagles this week. But here's his quote when he was asked on where he is at the psychology of comeback from an Achilles injury. I feel good. I feel good. I don't know what he's seeing. Now, that might be from one of the former players who was a quarterback who was in the media and broke down his tape. I'm not sure who it was, but whatever, it wasn't my Achilles. It could have been me just trying to get the laces or whatever it may be. But no, the Achilles feels good, and I feel like I can move and push as I normally would. End of quote. So here on what you were talking about with the pistol, being in shotgun, right?
Shotgun and pistol. You're right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. He was in pistol. Yeah. It's so weird seeing Kirk Cousins.
I know, and he's not done it. I'm gonna talk to John DeFilippo, who coached Kirk in his first year with the Vikings. I'm gonna talk to Flip this weekend about a couple things that he remembers about Kirk, because he had a hell of a game against the Eagles in that game in Philly. But here's the quote on the alignment and formation Sunday. We started with pistol back in April. That was big fundamental. That was a big fundamental philosophy. Talking with our offensive line coach, talking with our coaches as to what we wanted to do schematically. Then they basically said with the pistol, you could stand wherever you want. Back in April, I said, I just feel like I'm closed off to the right, handing the ball off. The back is on you really quick in the pistol, which it is, as you know, because he's standing right behind him. Under center, he's not on you as quick. I thought turning to my right with my right foot forward like I've been in the past. In the pistol, it's hard to do because I'm closed off. Hard to get open to the back the way I want to. So I'm going to have to square up my stance. I watched some tape of Peyton Manning who, when he was in the pistol, had some success with it.
Mm.
So basically, they just brought, it was just something that they suggested to him.
Yeah, I didn't even see him say that. So, I mean, I think that validates the idea that he just he's not completely comfortable with his alignment in this offense out of that pistol and shotgun formation. So we
So
always say, go ahead.
I was just saying, he denies the Achilles. Just go ahead.
Yeah, no, and listen, I can believe it. I thought when he threw the ball, he looked like when he was fine and not under duress and needed to locate a target. I didn't think he lacked arm strength or he looked weird to me. And I knew he was coming off the Achilles, so I thought maybe that was bothering him. But I could totally buy that that's fine, and he's just not comfortable in this kind of offense because I can see it's totally different than anything he's ever been in before. They're doing a ton of motion now, right? I mean, it's a Shanahan style offense. They're using 2 tight ends, and they're trying to marry the run, right, with the pass game. So he's used to they ran the ball in Minnesota, but not like they're trying to do now with Bijan Robinson and everything. So it might take a little bit. The Eagles might be catching them at a very good time.
Oh yeah, because we said last year, listen, when you're facing teams with particularly new schemes, you want to face them before they get it right. And Zach Robinson, from talking to people who work with him before, he's a pretty sharp guy. I know it looked bad last week. They're very talented on offense. The Eagles are more talented, but they've in Bijan. See, this is because they didn't have to. Josh Jacobs catch the football. He's not explosive like Bijan,
right?
Whereas Wes Dorm, the play-by-play voice for the Falcons, calls him Bijan. So I'm
like mustard.
What's that?
Isn't that like mustard?
Bijan
like
mustard,
Bijan,
right? Bijan, yeah, I'm going to get their pronunciation guide. I'm very curious if that's correct. Because I've never heard anyone say that. Because he was the guy I would hear when Olamide Zaccheaus, he must have said it 100. Because Zaccheaus made a couple big plays. He goes, Zaccheaus. I'm like, that's how you say it. I could never figure it out without him saying that.
I know. I remember, and then it's like, all right, now tell me how to pronounce his first name. Now that we got Zaccheaus,
Olamide, yeah, from St. Joe's Prep, right?
Yeah. So that's what I noticed about Kirk Cousins. Again, a lot of 12 personnel that they played, two tight ends, because Kyle Pitts really isn't much of a blocker. Honestly, you can call it, how we talked about 11 personnel disguised as 12 personnel with the Eagles if Grant Calcaterra was going to be the number 2. It's the same thing because Pitts isn't much of a blocker. You put him out there and you want him catching passes, and you still need somebody in line to make the block when you run a run out of 11, in quotes, 11.
By the way, they signed both wide tight ends for the Niners, not just Charlie Warner, who you mentioned. Ross Center Dweller now. Ross Dwelly. I should call him the center dweller. Yeah. He's this big, tall dude. It's 6'5", and all he does is block. It's just comical. They're giving, as you just said, they're running now. They're Zach he didn't work for Shanahan. He worked for, it's all the same tree. I mean, he worked for Sean McVay, but again, they're running a West Coast offense. So why not bring in the guys who've done it, Dwelly and Warner? It's just comical. I don't think I've ever seen that before. You bring both of the team's wide tight ends. And again, Zach Robinson wasn't with the Niners, so this is comical. They're telling you what they're doing. They're going to be a 12 personnel team. And by the way, Ray McLeod, another guy who knows the Niners scheme. That's why he's there. Yeah, they certainly got the pieces to make it work. I just think that they need the comfort, and I really do think, I don't want to say they're walking into a buzzsaw, because we'll talk about their defense in a second. I thought Atlanta's defense looked pretty fast and aggressive, and you mentioned having Simmons there next to Bates is a really nice safety tandem. But if offensively that's what they're going to bring to the link on Monday night, then forget about it. That game will be over by the second quarter. We said that you have to score. It's a long season. There's going to be a couple of anomalies, but in general, I think you're going to have to score points to beat the Eagles. And if that's their offense that they're bringing and still discombobulated and not comfortable, that's going to be tough for them to score points. How many points do you think it'll take to beat the Eagles on Monday night? 25 or more. I'm going to say 30 or more. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I liked what I saw out of Atlanta's defense. Now it's a little bit, I guess, skewed because they were going up against Pittsburgh's offense. What did you see from Pittsburgh's offense? We don't have time. All right. I just can't believe you and Greg. So Adam's asking this because I used to be like a big Arthur Smith guy,
And even in Atlanta, the first like 2
I don't know
years,
how.
Adam was like,
Yeah.
I don't know about this dude. I'm like, no, it's not his fault. It's the quarterback. It's because of this, that. And I mean, it's
Well,
not like Spencer Ritter got a job. So it was the quarterback too. But I just,
yeah.
I'm ashamed of myself.
Yeah,
I
it's
just didn't like the route concepts. I didn't love. I don't.
hmm.
And maybe they didn't know that Fields was going to start like a week before when they started their plan. I don't know, but it wasn't good.
Well, here's the question. Now, you know that it's like all they have is George Pickens, Van Jefferson, who's now starting formerly of Atlanta with Arthur, but they don't have Roman Wilson has a high ankle sprain. He might play this week, but they
Yeah.
haven't had him in several weeks. They just have a really bad receiver core other than George Pickens.
Right.
It made it
And
very easy.
There were a
Right?
couple of like openings that Justin just missed, and that was
Uh,
unfortunate. Yeah.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Guys are
Yeah.
open. Okay. By the way, Atlanta's got two of the tall safeties. Bates is about 6'1", and Simmons is over 6'2". Boy, that'll be interesting to see if they try to get those guys matched up with Goddard at all. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty ideal.
Yeah, I agree. And Adam, it's interesting. You mentioned that Atlanta doesn't have great corners, and you're correct about that.
Other than, well, they have great one, or not, they don't.
Right. The
Oh,
one opposite
Terrell.
Terrell, right. I'm sort of curious to see how this goes for them because their defensive coordinator is Jimmy Lake. And for those who may not know who Jimmy Lake is, he really sort of came into prominence as a good coach when he was with the University of Washington. He was the defensive backs coach there when Chris Peterson was the head coach. And, they were always known, even before Kalen DeBoer got there, Kalen now at Alabama, but they were known for being one of the few programs in the Pac-12 that played defense, them in Utah. Everybody else didn't play any defense, right? And so you look at all those corners that came out and safeties that came out of Washington, they're always good, from Marcus Peters to Buda Baker to all the true fonts, right? Isaiah, Desmond, and Marcus, right? I think they all went to University of Washington. Sidney Jones did not work out for the Eagles, but he was an
No.
All-American at Washington. That program was always known for really developing good cornerbacks. It still do, but especially when he was there. And now he's the D-backs coach. He is the defensive coordinator
Yep.
of the Falcons. So it'll be interesting to see how that secondary develops under him.
Yeah, they run a 34. It's Raheem's defense, and it's usually Raheem did a lot because they didn't have a lot of talent with the Rams. He actually tried to. I give the guy credit. I don't know how he got it done with the secondary that he had there. They were so bad at corner, but scheme related, really, really good disguise, and did a really good job. So we'll see. Matthew Judon is bucking for a new contract. He's playing on. He agreed that he knew he wasn't getting one, so he's playing on it. Grady Jarrett's back and healthy, as you saw in the tape. Onyemata is really stout against the run. Eddie Goldman is now come out of retirement. He retired, came out again. He's now out of retirement. Former Eagle, not great because he's only there a couple of weeks. It's Kentavious Street, who's there.
Played well, by the way. I thought his tape was
did
good.
he show up? Kentavious,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about Kentavious was playing well, obviously Grady Jarrett is back from an injury. He's one of the best defensive tackles, and you put Matthew Judon in there. I thought their front play. I told you, I thought Troy Anderson played well. Caden Ellis is the other linebacker. Again, it's Pittsburgh's offense, so I mean, I don't know how to weight this, but to me, you remember last year Atlanta had no pass rushers because Grady Jarrett was hurt and they didn't have Judon. Now you put those two guys on and you got a little juice to your front seven.
Oh, and I'm sure you know this by watching the tape. So Sayamalo didn't play for Pittsburgh as their left guard, who was the best graded lineman last season by the club. Dan Moore is probably below average left tackle.
Yeah.
Roderick Jones had a rough preseason. Fatano's come back from an MCL sprain, so he didn't play last week.
Right.
So the Falcons had an advantage because they have an average offensive line to begin with, and now with those injuries, but now they're facing this Eagles offensive line, which had a pretty good night.
Yeah. I think it'll be a good test for them, and it'll be a good test to see whether that was really just a product of the Steelers being bad offensively, or if the Falcons actually had something to do with that. One other thing to mention, as you said, they play a 3-4 front. Yes. So the big difference the Eagles will be seeing on Monday night, as opposed to the Friday night opener, is they're going to see a lot more of those 5-man fronts. There was a lot of 5-1. There was a lot of 5-2 base where they didn't even have a nickel in. They just had 5-2 and then 2 corners, 2 safeties. So I doubt they'll do that against the Eagles. Well, maybe you will, because maybe you don't fear the inside receiver threat. I don't know. If Devontae Smith's inside, I'm going to want my nickel corner out there.
Oh, he'll kill D.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number
So it'll be
20.
interesting to see how they match up. But this will be Saquon Barkley's kind of first look now with an Eagle as an Eagle at a 5-man front that's going to try to limit his ability to, find gaps.
Onyemata got paid big time. He is strong as hell. He's a really good player.
He is a good player.
And you mentioned Grady Jarrett back from the ACL injury, who's, on the back nine of his career, but really good. He's 31 years old, but had a really good week last week. And look, it's not going to be easy. They have a good defense. It'll be well coached, but obviously they have some issues at corner opposite Terrell, as we said. So we'll see what happens. And we expect the Eagles to take advantage of it. And then, offensively, what I find interesting before we get out of here, we'll talk more about this when we dropped that show Monday morning, the more in-depth preview with Cosell, is they've got, let's see, 3 former first-round picks. Jake Matthews, who's really good. McGarry, the right tackle. Chris Lindstrom, who's the right guard.
Yeah.
Matthew Bergeron, they're super high on, who's a second-rounder last year out of Syracuse. And Drew Dolman, who's been there. This is his 4th year, so who's not a high-round pick. He was a 4th-rounder, but 3 1s and a 2 and a 4. And that's pretty good. These are all their own players.
Yeah. Now, I will say they look like they struggled a little bit up front. Now, I know Lindstrom got banged up a little bit, so he had to come out. And then you're also going up against a very, very good Steelers defensive front. So
by the way,
you're going to lose some battles to TJ Watt. I get it.
Well, he killed them. He had 2 sacks he lost. Apparently, the word I got from someone who graded the tape within 24 hours after the game said, "Oh, holy smokes. Watt just tore them down."
Yeah.
It's just they had a couple questionable penalties go against the Steelers, but
I'll tell you what was advantage for them is that the Steelers fans traveled really well. Atlanta fans, as we all know, are not good fans. Sorry. If anybody's listening from Atlanta, I don't think you're a good fan. So I think the Steelers didn't have to worry about
passionate Falcons fans. I'll give them that.
Well, yeah, I get not really.
They're good, I guess.
Let fans take over their stadium all the time. I've been there like 3 times, and I've always heard, I will say I felt like the Watt had a jump on the count, right? It was, so like it's not like when you're on the road, you shouldn't be able to like hear that, right? Well, I guess usually the home team's either way. I thought Watt had a pretty good jump on the count and gave both tackles some fits with that. So that'll be something to look for. Obviously, Lane Johnson's pretty good though, so I think it'll be all right.
Their line the Eagles' line was pretty darn stout. Now again,
no pun intended, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny. It's interesting because Kirk Cousins. It's weird. This is the 3rd year in a row he's faced him. 2 years ago, terrible. That was that Monday night game. Last year, pretty good.
Yeah,
he had a huge game. And was it weird? Was it week 2 years in a row? Was that the quirk?
It was 2 years, week 2. And also Monday night. So I think this is the 3rd straight week 2 Monday night game. If not, it was a Sunday night. Either way, 3rd straight week 2 primetime game.
That is, this is the strangest thing I've ever seen. But we'll see now because Kirk Cousins was in shotgun just about all the time. Mm-hmm. It's so fascinating to see if they get him under center where he really excels. Where that's his deal. So we'll see. And by the way, he got hurt last year, October 29th at Green Bay. That's when he got hurt. So boy, almost a full year.
How about that? All right. Well, it won't be a full year before you hear from me and Adam again. And we'll be joined by Greg Cosell the next time you hear us for Inside the Birds pregame show. And we'll talk to you then. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.